Good morning, Sunnyvale. Good morning. Make sure everything's working. Happy Friday. Starting to get cold out there. Time to wear my heavier jacket, to say the least. Good morning. Get started in just a moment. Morning. Good morning. Get started in just a second. Okay. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Happy Halloween. Happy Friday. It's a perfect end to our spooky month. Welcome to my weekly virtual office hours. This week's early artwork is actually a draft of something that I've been working on. Let's make sure. Wait, looks like there's technical difficulties. Let's make sure we're still streaming. Okay, looks like things are still going. So this is a piece that I started to work on earlier this month and just didn't get around to finishing it, but it was a Dia de los Muertos effort with a let's say a Wonka theme and a Sunnyvale theme. So definitely there's art that I was trying to get done, but the life of the mayor sometimes gets too busy. So maybe I'll be able to work on it sometime in the next few months, and it'll all be ready for next year. But hopefully you are enjoying Halloween, and I think a lot of Sunnyvale residents are. If you get a chance, I've seen lots of things around the city as far as that's concerned, highlighting people's love for Halloween here, and hopefully you're getting into the spirit. There's of course a pet parade this weekend, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. And there's also an ofrenda at the city library. So hopefully you'll be able to see that if you get a chance. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thank you for joining me again this week. It's been a busy week, although for me, I've been a little quarantined, so we'll talk about that. This is the 181st installment of my weekly virtual office hours. I hope everyone has been doing well and staying warm. That we have a lot cooler evenings right now. We've now reached 1,320 days since the March 16th 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. You know, over 3 years ago, I converted my weekly office hours at the coffee shop into this weekly live stream address. And, you know, people still say they enjoy either meeting the mayor in person, or I'll say, you know, watching this meeting. I do think it's been a great way to get the word out on all the fantastic things that are happening in Sunnyvale, answer some of your questions, and just provide you some general words of encouragement, which, especially during COVID, were much appreciated. And I still get thank yous from lots of residents as far as that's concerned on doing these virtual live streams. But thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale. Most Fridays, not today, I follow up this live stream session with in-person meetings at Bean Scene on Murphy Avenue. If you want to reserve a 15-minute or 30-minute time slot, just email me at council@larryklein.com. And you can always see my calendar at larryklein.com on when the next office hours are. And if you want to drop in for a few minutes, just a question or, you know, a few minutes, you can always do that. And that always works out. You know, I can usually find time if you're willing to wait to meet with the mayor. Now let's go ahead and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last few weeks. 2 weekends ago was a very busy weekend. You know, lots of things were happening, you know, especially on Saturday, October 14th. First, there was the firefighters pancake breakfast back at fire station number 2. And so this was the first time post-COVID that we were finally able to redo our pancake breakfast. And it was all the proceeds benefited the Elisa and Rush Burn Foundation. And so it was great breakfast, lots of families there, free fire truck rides, which I've heard a lot of kids enjoyed. But it was a great event and good to be out there with the fire dog, and of course our you know, chicken mascot. But it was a lot of fun, and hope that everybody who attended had a good time, and we'll be having it again next October as usual. And then there was also a rummage sale and vintage sale at the Sunnyvale Heritage Park Museum. So it was actually a lot of fun to kind of go through that courtyard and pick up a few items. It's always a great event, and you know, lots of variety of items, and a lot of people out doing some, let's say, early Christmas shopping possibly. There was a eclipse solar eclipse party at the Sunnyvale Library Plaza. So you know, I passed through there and it looked like a good group. And then there was also Day on the Bay, and so you know, that's something that Supervisor Cortese started, and now Supervisor Lee is continuing. But thanks to the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition and Bike Sunnyvale, we had a ride like we did last year from Plaza del Sol to Alviso. And then we met up with the second contingent that was biking from the county buildings. And so it was fun, lots of booze and lots of booths and activities in Alviso. You know, there was canoeing, there was rock wall climbing, and you know, lots of things that you know, free COVID tests that I've actually been using a lot of this week. And then so that was Day on the Bay. And then in the evening, Ro Khanna actually had a town hall in Santa Clara at Mission College. It was good to attend that. But yeah, it was a very busy weekend to say the least. And then last Monday, The IRS announced that it's going to postpone the tax filing again. So that tax filing payment deadline is now moved out a month for most Californians. So, it was initially supposed to be within the last, I think it was supposed to be last week. But the postponement comes after, deadlines had already been postponed by 6 months from mid-April to October 16th. Due to the disaster declarations around California. And so the California Franchise Tax Board also postponed the California state filings to kind of meet that. And so the payment deadline is moved from another month. So it's now Thursday, November 16th. And the state normally conforms with what the federal government is doing. And so if the IRS decides to postpone it, then the state will do the same thing. And that new deadline gives residents in 55 of the 58 counties 4 extra weeks to complete their tax returns for 2022. So it's only Lassen, Modoc, and Shasta counties in the far north that weren't hit by so many of the disasters during the rainy season last year. And so they're the only counties that don't qualify for that postponement. So it helps, residents if they're paying, keep their money a little bit longer. I'm assuming if you're getting money back, you've already filed. But of course, moving that deadline also means that Governor Newsom won't have that much hard data as he finalizes his proposed 2024-2025 budget in December. And I think, and just reading a few articles, they expected to have about 30 billion revenue or taxes received by October, and they're about half that. So we'll see how many people are waiting to file and what this actually means to next year's budget. And then last Wednesday, I headed to Japan, and that's why we didn't have a live stream last week. I was actually in Japan for our sister city event, and I had originally planned to visit our sister city back in the spring of 2020, but we all know what happened to travel basically in 2020, and that when COVID began, things kind of stopped. And so this year we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary of our sister city agreement with Isuka, Japan. And so it was especially good to be there and see the city for the first time. We had residents and officials from Isuka visit here in August. And ultimately, it's like, and generally, pre-COVID, they send officials here, and we're one of the most active Japanese sister cities in California, with the number of people that we send to our sister city in Japan every year, and the number of people that they send here. So, kudos to our Sister City Foundation and Mark Cato, especially, who runs that. But it's a lot of sponsors and making sure that program goes on every year. So it was a lot of fun from that standpoint. So the 4 days in Japan were really busy. Lots of ceremonies. There was even a parade where I was the Grand Marshal. Lots of looking at the history of Isuka. We had a whole tour group from Sunnyvale that had spent. Most of them had been there for, I think, the 4 days that I was there, they had been there already 7 days, I think. So they'd already been there for weeks and did the final 4 days in Isuka. I'll post some photos later this weekend probably. But, of course, when I returned, I ended up testing positive for COVID on Monday. So it's been a very tiring week for me. I've been, quarantining. So that's why you see slightly different background today than a normal virtual live stream. So doing it at a different location just for the safety of my wife, and as I recover, I'm fairly close to being finished with recovery, but still fighting it to some degree. And then let's see what else happened. Last Thursday, our new senator, Senator Butler, said she would not be running for a full term next year. So running for, we'll say, re-election, although she didn't get election, since she was appointed, 3 weeks ago, Governor Newsom appointed LaFonza Butler as our to finish the remaining term for Senator Dianne Feinstein. Now, of course, there's lots of, there's still lots of questions. So we have 3 top contenders, and it looks like all 3 of them will be running for two Senate terms next year, and it'll be interesting. So there'll be 2 things on the ballot in 2024. One is for the 2 remaining months of Senator Feinstein's term. So ultimately, Senator Butler will be in office and until November, until election day in November of 2024. And then there's the last 2 months, November and December, that will be on the ballot. And then also the 6-year term will also be on the ballot. So I'm not sure if all 3 candidates are also, or the majority of the 3 contenders right now are the top 3, but there's lots of potential people that have already filed for running for Senate. But there's a 2-month window. So there's a 2-month Senate window, and then there's the 6-year term. And so we'll see whether or not all the people that have filed for Senate for the Senate for that Senate position and are running are also running for both positions. So are both, the 2-month and the 6-year term. So we'll see what the ballot looks like for next year. And then last Saturday, of course, there was a Diwali festival at the community center, and sorry I wasn't able to attend. I think it's been really great over the last few years to see that event. And I think, from everything that I heard in talking to the organizers, it was a big success. Lots of people enjoying the music and the dance and, the activities for kids, and there were booths and everything and food trucks. So lots of great things happening at the community center last weekend. And I'm sorry to miss it. Hopefully I will be there next year. And then also last Saturday was Sunnyvale Community Services Auxiliary held their fall sale. And that was happening at the Sunnyvale Community Services building on Kern Avenue. But there were crafts and baked goods. There were raffles for the fantastic quilts that they always have. So definitely, hopefully people were able to attend that. I got a little preview before I headed to Japan, buying several jars of honey for gifts. So good to take Sunnyvale honey to Japan to basically give them some gifts. So it was actually a lot of fun from that standpoint. And then that same Saturday, last Saturday, Charles Street Gardens had their fall plant sale. So always good to see people planning for their winter garden. And then as far as this week is concerned, I returned on Monday, a very long day Monday, left Monday afternoon in Japan and returned Monday morning at about 10 a.m. And because the wonderful time, crossing the international date line. And so it was actually interesting, a very long day, and then finding out that, starting to getting sniffly and having COVID. So been quarantining since. And then on Tuesday night, council met and we had a very long evening. I had to do, of course, there's now a provision in the Brown Act that you can have, just cause remote meetings. So because I was testing positive with COVID, I could do a last minute remote meeting. The Brown Act requires you to either list where you are, or if you are sick, you can do that twice a year, of taking that remote meeting because you're feeling well or family members are not doing well. We started with a study session on guaranteed basic income. And this is part of a study issue that we started about a year and a half ago, I think, at this point. But it was to give feedback, give an update and give feedback for council to give feedback to city staff on what they would like to see. But lots of cities have had pilot programs for a guaranteed basic income, and definitely there are lots of things that could be done to help those at risk. And there was the question of is it a step ladder, or whether or not it's just helping. And I think it's a step ladder. To me, it was families, and especially families conceivably going to college and trying to get stability into their homes. And so we're looking at conceivably finding grant funding or philanthropic funding, maybe a little bit of city funding to assist those at-need families, to kind of give them more stability. So it was a good study session from that standpoint. We had several special orders of the day, Filipino American History Month and Picture Book Month. And then our state senator, Aisha Wahab, came by to give us a legislative update. So that was actually really good to at least see her. I wish I had been able to welcome her and give her a tour of City Hall, but for a freshman senator, she's done fantastic. And then we spent several hours looking at approving the preferred concept for Lakewood Park. And so, our long-term vision is to renovate all of our parks over 20 years. And so Lakewood, after Fair Oaks was our first, Lakewood was the next one. But we ended up hearing from lots of residents speak on both sides of the main issue on whether to do artificial turf or natural grass. And so council ultimately chose natural grass, and I think that was definitely it's the sustainable thing to do. It's looking at what we can do to keep microfibers, PFAS chemicals out of our groundwater, out of the bay. But there was also the question of, why are we having to close so many of our fields? Most of our fields we close probably 3 to 4 months out of the year when it's a rainy, especially this past year when it was a rainy season. And whether or not there are other things that we can do for those fields, changing kind of the subfloor of that field to give it a longer life. So, we added trying to make sure that we could do that. We also looked at, we gave direction to kind of improve the grass and drainage that hopefully we can make those fields open longer in the winter time. Right now that's been the biggest thing. And I've heard from lots of players and kids and parents that they really like Fair Oaks Park because it rains, and the next day in the wintertime they're out, teams are out there using it, and I think it's probably our most used field at this point. That being said, lots of residents in Lakewood and lots of our, environmental activists said we shouldn't be doing artificial turf, even though, there are supposedly PFAS-free artificial turf, and I've heard things on both sides of that issue. But I think what we did was, trying to do what was best, environmentally, not losing that natural feel for that park, but conceivably also improve what those fields are. We also gave direction to add the design for future batting cages to that park. Those would be baseball, softball, and cricket batting cages. Ultimately, adding it as part of the design so that if residents and funding appears, then we can actually get that done. And then we were also supposed to look at approving art and private development for City Line. So this would be right at the corner of Murphy and Washington. So right underneath the office building that's there, right at that corner would be additional art. Because we, when we got to 12:30 a.m. And we finally had finished the Lakewood Park renovations item, then we decided that, it's like, let's not continue our meeting. Council decided we'll postpone that item for a future meeting. So hopefully that will be, and I think that is at our next real meeting, as far as that's concerned. And then on Wednesday, from at a federal level, the House finally voted for a new speaker, Mike Johnson. That matching the name, not the head of the Sunnyvale Downtown Association, but yeah, Mike Johnson. So, and I think that's caused, this was about 3 weeks ago that the House voted to remove, Kevin McCarthy. So California Republican Kevin McCarthy from the position as House Speaker. And that's caused quite a bit of turmoil at the House level, not being able to get things done. There's an interim House Speaker, but the vote of trying to get a new House Speaker has been always happening in the background. So they finally voted on a new House Speaker, and hopefully that will move things along. As I said previously, I won't be focusing on weekly COVID numbers anymore. Although what I said a few weeks ago, the federal government relaunched the website where Americans can once again order free at-home COVID tests. And all you need to do is go to covidtest.gov, and you'll see instructions directing you to the website where the USPS you order, and then the USPS, the Postal Service, will deliver it directly to your home. You don't have to pay for shipping. You don't have to do any of that. So it's good from that standpoint. Ours arrived a few weeks ago, and I have now gone through the majority of those. So, but it is that free service, and it's good to have those tests available. I continue to do a lot of advocating on our city's behalf at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level, checking in with Congressman Khanna's office earlier this week on several issues. But let me go ahead and announce some of the upcoming events. Besides being Halloween, of course, it is also Dia de los Muertos. So there's an ofrenda, which is basically, it's an altar at the library celebrating those that have passed. So you're welcome to bring a copy of a photo of a loved one and leave at that altar. Please make sure it's a copy so that you know that the photo will not be returned. So it's something that will be discarded at the end of that presentation. I think that's will be displayed until November 7th. Of course, this weekend, the Halloween Pet Parade is back Sunday morning. So that's happening starting at right across the street from Whole Foods, starting around 9:30 or 10 a.m. But go to sunnyvalepetparade.com to read all the information, to sign up, to dress up your dog, to dress up your family, to come join the fun. So we've had a lot of fun as far as that's concerned for several years now, and happy to continue that tradition. On Sunday afternoon, there is a family-friendly movie at the library. So that will be Frankenweenie. Frankenweenie, which ultimately is a humorous, let's say, story for if you haven't seen it. It's actually pretty amusing. But that will be happening at the library Sunday afternoon, I think at 2. And then, of course, next Tuesday is Halloween. Sunnyvale was ranked last month as one of the top 25 safest places to trick or treat nationally. So it's number 5 in California and number 22 nationally. So happy to get that. Always happy to get those positive statistics from a city standpoint. And then So that's next Tuesday is Halloween. So hopefully you're all prepared for all those dressed up boys and girls that will be coming to your home. And then next Saturday, November 3rd, Rokana will be having a town hall at Columbia Middle School at 1:30 p.m. So come join that. You can sign up to RSVP for that event. And then as far as upcoming council meetings, Monday the 6th, we'll be doing our board and commission interviews, and we're interviewing year round as far as that's concerned. So if you're always interested in applying to any of our board and commissions, that the next that pretty much happens every quarter. And then on Tuesday, November 14th, we'll have our next official council meeting. That'll be, looking at approving that art and private development at City Line that we postponed from Tuesday night. And then we'll also look at approving a general plan initiation request for a project on Wolf Road. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. If you have a question, just add it to the comments and I'll try to get to it. Definitely, I've seen some weirdness already with Facebook today. Jim asked, can you provide an update on DPW 2011, evaluate feasibility of dog off-leash hours and select Sunnyvale parks? So that was a study issue that we proposed several years ago. Council ended up not ranking it above the line in our last year's study issue process. It'll come back to us up in this upcoming year. And so ultimately what we'll end up doing is re-ranking it. So, we had a good number of residents show up at our last council meeting advocating for dog off-leash hours at certain parks. And lots of cities have had pilot programs or permanent programs now. So it's in Mountain View, it's in Cupertino. They're actually looking at adding it to a few additional parks. So that's one of the things that we're, also considering. But we've heard, it's always ranking. And so this is one of the things that council will be doing as far as next year. Robert asked previously, happy Friday, Mayor. Do you know what's happening at 485 North Matilda? It was a Wendy's restaurant. It was a Wendy's restaurant that closed over a year ago. So I posted photos about this last week. It is going to be a Taco Bell. It will be our 5th Taco Bell. We'll have one on El Camino, Wolf Road, Hollenbeck, Tasman. And the facade is finally starting to take shape, so you can kind of see that it's definitely a Taco Bell and some of the branding is there. Aman asked, when is the Taco Bell opening? It should still be a few months. They're still working on interior items, and then they need to get final permits. Diane and others asked, is it a regular Taco Bell or Taco Bell Cantina like they have in Oak Ridge Mall, with drinks and alcohol and a more extended menu, including vegan? I think it is regular. It's just a regular Taco Bell. I didn't, so from the signage that they've already put up, the Taco Bell Cantina has special branding. And so I don't think it's that, but maybe they'll be changing the branding as they get closer to opening. I've heard, lots of good things as far as that kind of different Taco Bell, and I was hoping that at least it would be slightly not your standard Taco Bell taking place at the old Wendy's. Jesus asked what's going to happen to the Fry's Electronics. That's a big lot. Still no definite submitted plans, but in the short term, I think it's staging for Applied Materials' new R&D campus development. So, their $4 billion CHIP Act investment to create an R&D campus here in Sunnyvale. So that's, I think they have ended up purchasing that property and are looking to do staging as they do construction of, moving either staging construction equipment or moving parking there for their employees while they work on their new campus. Eric asked, when is Tipsy Putt opening? I met with them last week, and it looks like, or 2 weeks ago now, and it looks like November 15th is their target date. I think they've already started having signups for their grand opening. Tina asked, will under the arch be a pedestrian walkway or for cars? It should be a ramp going down to parking. It should be mainly a pedestrian zone and maybe partially a ramp going down to parking, but I'm still working out how that full pathway goes through. Josh asked, I saw Target stores are closing across the Bay Area. Is there any risk of our store closing? And so luckily, Target is actually reinvesting in our store. They're finishing a renovation. So they did some outdoor and interior renovations. And actually they just expanded our store hours from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So they just added 2 additional hours to the day. It's one of the most successful Targets I hear, and lots of people's favorites, both in our city and outside of our city. People come to downtown Sunnyvale just to go to our Target. Rick asked previously, what other retail and restaurants are opening up at City Line? So Tipsy Putt will be opening up in November. Yoga 6 Studios will also open up most likely in December. And then there's lots of other restaurants. Melt, a grilled cheese restaurant, is opening up under that frontage of Target. And then there will be a boba shop called Tiazi, which is also planned to be open. Joshua asked previously, great to hear about the Safe Routes to School investment near Lakewood Elementary. Is there a layout or diagram of the upcoming changes that we can see on a website? So it's in our active transportation plan. And so those improvements include safe travel, curb radius reductions, and then curb extensions for pedestrian safety, signage and striping, ADA curb ramps. So lots of things around Lakewood and especially around the park. Kathleen asked, do you know what type of business will be going into Murphy's Law now that it's been sold? It's still a bar as far as I know, with maybe more food options. But yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from the new owners on exactly is anything actually changing there. I think that's all the questions that we have. Let me go ahead and wrap up. Thanks to everyone who joined me again this week. We live in interesting times and face new issues. COVID still is part of our life, as I found out this week. And new issues come up every day. But I want you to know that no matter what challenges we face them together. I'm proud of Sunnyvale and how residents have always responded to the challenges, especially over the last few years. You've shown your kindness, your generosity, and I'm just thankful for everyone who helps out in our community. Your actions and your attitude really do make a difference. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together and we will get through this together. Thanks for listening. Have a good weekend. Have a great Halloween. Goodbye.